Hi, class. So let's get into chapter 1 and then we'll move into chapter 2. So what is retailing and why has it been undergoing so much change recently? Retailing consists of the final activities and steps needed to either place the product in the hands of the final consumer or to provide the services to the customer. It's the last step in the supply chain, which can be performed by any firm that sells the product or provides the service to the final consumer. Retailing includes every individual as a customer and accounts for 20% of the worldwide labor force. And consumer spending represents nearly a third of Americans' total economy. As the largest single industry in most nations, retailing or spending by consumers is necessary for businesses to grow and hire again. Today, retailing is going through many exciting changes. Every retailer must consider how a change in any facet of the external environment could impact its current and future retail plans, as well as the entire retail sector within which it competes. Embedded in the word retail is one of the most important trends in the retail industry, and that is e-tailing. Contrary to the fears of many retailers a decade ago, the internet hasn't destroyed brick-and-mortar retailers that operate out of a physical and geographic-based building or store. Focusing solely on online sales diminishes or overlooks where the internet's truly making an impact on retailing. Consumer expectation and behavior has changed. Today's customers, especially the younger ones, are accustomed not only to speed and convenience of purchasing online, but also the control it gives them. E-tailing, after all, enables consumers to shop when they want, from where they want to, in the comfort of their home, in their pajamas, at whatever time is convenient for them. In addition, it provides access to vast amounts of information ranging from the product's attributes to who has the lowest price. No real-world store can match that. The fastest growing form of e-tailing or e-commerce is beginning to be known as m-tailing or m-commerce, where shoppers use their smartphones to purchase not only traditional merchandise and services, but also virtual service providers, which are commonly referred to as apps. I'm sure most of you or all of you know what apps are. You can get apps from anything from newspapers or news stories to sports reporting, sports scores, to any type of shopping outlets that you would like. M-tailing is rapidly growing. Even this past holiday season shopping, they had reported that it was the first time that there was a significant amount of consumers purchasing their items through their smartphones. So it's definitely a trend that's going to continue and increase in popularity. To combat e-tailing, brick and mortar retailers have to give their customers more control over the shopping experience, even if that means bringing web-style technology into the store in an attempt to replicate the best things about online shopping, but in a personal way. Retailers should not fight this trend because the consumer is already bringing the web into the store. Young shoppers with smartphones send photos of potential purchases to their friends, and then their friends text message back, which allows young shoppers to get input from their close-knit support system. These savvy shoppers also can use their phones to scan the UPC codes to immediately see if the price is competitive at other retailers in the area or online. Consequently, the retailers need to get on and grow with web technology. There are in-store kiosks, for example. They're particularly useful to show the final product before the special or customized order is placed. They allow the shopper to see the finished product before purchasing it and provide an online experience in the store. Other retailers have set up their own websites, while some have begun non-traditional methods to reach out to the consumers. The most important thing for brick and mortar retailers is to grasp the shift in power between retailers and consumers. Traditionally, the retailers were the ones who controlled the pricing information, which provided them the upper hand in the transaction. But today, there's so much information out there for all consumers to be able to get whenever they want, however they want. So that gives consumers a chance of being better informed about the product, about the capabilities of the product, about pricing and competition's pricing. So this has shifted the power over to the consumers. So some brick and mortar retailers have discontinued some product categories as consumers engage in an activity called channel surfing. And channel surfing occurs when customers get information in the stores and then order it online for a lower price and avoid paying sales tax. So let's talk about price. Some people claim that Americans' fixation with lower prices began after World War II when fair trade laws, which allowed the manufacturer to set a price that no retailer was allowed to set below, were abolished, paving the way for the first discounters. This revolution more likely began with the birth of Walmart in Rogers, Arkansas in 1962. What Sam Walton did that forever changed the face of retailing was to realize before everybody else, the most of any product's cost gets added after the product is produced. So as a result, Walton began enlisting suppliers to help him reduce these costs and increase the efficiency of the product's movement from production to placement to store shelves. Simply put, Walmart became the world's largest retailer by relentlessly cutting unnecessary costs, improving operating efficiencies, and demanding that suppliers do the same. A popular measure of operating efficiency is operating costs as a percentage of sales. Categorizing retailers can help in understanding competition, retail strategy, and the changes that occur in retailing. There's no single acceptable method of classifying retail competitors, although many classification schemes have been proposed. And you can see the 5 most popular schemes used today described in Exhibit 1.3. So there are the NAICS codes, the number of outlets, margin over turnover, location, and size. Retail is the largest industry in the United States, and a retail manager needs to be knowledgeable in many areas. Few job opportunities train people to become an expert, not just in one field, but in all business disciplines. Retailing offers people the economist's job of forecasting future sales, the fashion expert's job of predicting consumer behavior and how it all affects future fashion trends, the buyer's job of sourcing and negotiating terms of the merchandise that will sell, and the marketer's job of determining how to promote, price, and display the merchandise. Also, retail manager has to be part of the financial analyst's job of seeking ways to reduce various expenses. They also have to look at the personnel manager's job of hiring the right people, training them to perform their duties in an efficient manner, and developing their work schedules. They work with logistics, they work as information system analysts, and they also work in an accountant's role, making sure that they're arriving at a profitable bottom line. So over the course of a career in retailing, there are many issues that need to be dealt with. Some of them might be what products or services to offer. Who are the customers we should be serving? Where should we locate the store? How many employees do I need? What kind of employees do I need? How do I train these employees? How do I motivate these employees? How do I advertise my merchandise and build my store image. What price do I price my products and services at? When do I decide to lower that price or increase that price? Or should I ever increase that price? And what types of customer service should we offer on top of the product that we're selling? So, do we have extended store hours? Do we offer types of credit? Do we have specific people dedicated just to the customer service side of it? After service or after purchase servicing? What does our parking look like? Things like that. And luckily, we're going to discuss all of those things in this course. So in your book, Exhibit 1.5 illustrates the career paths available to college graduates at a typical retailer. But there are two major paths. So there's store management and buying. So store management involves responsibility for selecting, training, and evaluating personnel, as well as in-store promotions, displays, customer service, building maintenance, and security. And then buying involves the use of quantitative tools to develop appropriate buying plans for the store's merchandise lines. How much stuff do you need to buy, and which items are you buying for your store to attract the right customers to make the most profit? So that was kind of an overview of Chapter 1, which kind of goes to an overview for the whole course. We're going to move on to Chapter 2. So Chapter 2 is about retail strategic planning and operations management. And in this chapter, we're going to look at the importance of planning in successful retail organizations. We're going to introduce a retail planning and management model that serves as a frame for reference for the remainder of this text. It's a simple model, but it illustrates the importance of strategic planning and operations management. And these two activities, if they're properly conducted, will enable a retail firm to achieve results exceeding those of the competition. In most endeavors, a well-defined plan of action can mean the difference between success and failure. A clearly defined plan of action is an essential ingredient in all forms of business management. This is especially true in the highly competitive field of retailing, where consumers' demand continues to be relatively soft. Planning is the anticipation and organization of what needs to be done to reach an objective. However, it's difficult to know in advance of upcoming seasons what styles, quantities, colors, and sizes the customer will want. Superior planning by retailers enables them to offset some of the advantages their competition may have, such as a good location. Success for all retailers, large and small, is generally a matter of good planning and implementing that plan. When there is a lot of change and turbulence in the retailer's environment, it may be especially important to be proactive in terms of strategic action. For instance, several retailers have chosen to jump with both feet into the digital world and overlook the short-term potential of cannibalizing one's in-store sales. In 2010, JCPenney became the first retailer to place its entire product catalog online within Facebook. While these retailers may not be sure about the eventual role social media or the internet may play within their respective industries, each has realized that if you don't plan for the future and take strategic action today, they risk becoming forgotten retailers of another era. Strategic planning involves adapting the resources of the firms to the opportunities and threats of an ever-changing retail environment. Through the proper use of strategic planning, retailers hope to achieve and maintain a balance between resources available and opportunities ahead. Strategic planning process consists of 4 components. So you have to develop a mission statement for the enterprise, define a specific goal and objective for the enterprise, identify and analyze the retailer's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, which is referred to as a SWOT analysis, and develop the strategies that will enable the enterprise to reach its objectives and fulfill its mission. The beginning of the retailer's strategic planning process is the formulation of the mission statement. The mission statement is a basic description of the fundamental nature, rationale, and direction of the firm. It provides employees and customers with an understanding of where future growth for the enterprise will come from. Not every retailer has a mission statement. Because so many businesses don't know where they want to go and how to get there, they end up failing. But the lack of a written mission statement does not necessarily mean you're going to fail. If you have a written mission statement, it doesn't guarantee you're going to succeed. It's important to look at your mission statement and make sure that it tells 3 different things. So how the retailer uses or intends to use its resources, how it expects to relate to the ever-changing environment, and the kinds of values it intends to offer in order to serve the needs and wants of the customer. The second step in strategic planning process is to define specific goals and objectives. These goals and objectives should be driven from and give precision and direction to the retailer's mission statement. Goals and objectives serve 2 purposes. They provide specific direction and guidance to the firm in a formulation of its strategy, and they provide a control mechanism by establishing a standard against which the firm can measure and evaluate its performance. If the results are less than expected, then it's a signal that corrective action must be taken. While goals and objectives can be expressed in many different ways, retailers will usually divide them in 4 dimensions. Market performance, which compares a firm's actions to its competitors. Financial performance, which analyzes the firm's ability to provide a profit level adequate to continue in business and in many cases grow its business. Societal objectives, which are phrased in terms of helping society fulfill some of its needs, and personal objectives, which relate to helping people employed in the retailing space to fulfill some of their needs. Market performance objectives establish the amount of dominance the retailer seeks in the marketplace. The most popular measure of market performance in retailing are sales volume and market share. Market share is the retailer's total sales divided by total market share, or the proportion of total sales in a particular geographic or product market that the retailer has been able to capture. Usually, when a retailer wants to grow its sales more rapidly than the growth of the overall market or economy, it needs to expand the number of stores it operates. Thus, high sales growth retailing is directly linked to expanding the size of the enterprise's chain of retail stores. Retailers can establish many financial objectives, but they can all be conveniently fit into categories of profitability and productivity. Profit-based objectives deal directly with the monetary return a retailer deserves from its business. The most common way to define profit is the aggregate total of net profit after taxes. That is the bottom line of the income statement. Another common retail method of expressing profit is the percentage of net sales. However, most retailer owners feel the best way to define profit is in terms of return on investment. This method of reporting profits as a percentage of investments is complicated by the fact that there are 2 different ways to determine the term investment. So there's return on assets, which reflects all of the capital used in a business, whether provided by the owners or the creditors. Return on investment, also referred to as return on net worth, reflects the amount of capital that owners have invested in the business. All retailers establish some form of profit objective. The specific profit objectives developed will play an important role in evaluating potential strategic opportunities. Incidentally, the last 25 years in the United States have seen relatively low price inflation. But when price inflation rises, retailers also as well as other enterprises, develop higher profit objectives. Productivity objectives state how much output the retailer deserves for each unit of resource input. There are three major resources at the retailer's disposal, and they are space productivity, which is net sales divided by the total square feet of retail floor space. A space productivity objective states how many dollars in sales the retailer wants to generate for each square foot of store space. Labor productivity, which are the net sales divided by the number of full-time equivalent employees who work 40 hours a week. A labor productivity objective reflects how many dollars in sales a retailer deserves to generate for each full-time equivalent employee. Merchandise productivity is the net sales divided by the average dollar investment in inventory. This measure is also known as sales to stock ratio. Specifically, this objective states that the annual dollar sales a retailer deserves to generate for each dollar invested in the inventory. Productivity objectives are used by a retailer to program its business for high profit results. Societal objectives reflect the retailer's desire to help society fulfill some of its needs. The 5 most frequently cited societal objectives are employment objectives, which relate to the provision of employment opportunities for members in the retailer's community. Payment of taxes is the retailer's role in helping finance societal needs that the government deems appropriate. Consumer choice, which is when a retailer may have an objective of competing in a way that gives consumers a real alternative. The retailer with such an objective desires to be the leader or innovator in merchandising and thus provide the consumer with choices that previously were not available in the trade area. Equity, which reflects the retailer's desire to treat the consumer and suppliers fairly and not endanger their living conditions. In addition, retailers will not engage in price gouging customers in instances of merchandise shortages. And the last is being a benefactor, which the retailer may desire to underwrite certain community activities. Personal objectives reflect the retailer's desire to help individuals employed in retailing fulfill some of their needs. Generally, retailers tend to pursue three types of personal objectives. Self-gratification, which focuses on the needs and desires of the owners, managers, or employees of the enterprise, and the pursuit of what they truly want out of life. Status and respect, which all people strive for status and respect. In this objective, one recognizes that owners, managers, employees need status and respect in their community or within the circle of friends. And then power and authority. So it reflects the need of managers and other employees to be in positions of influence. So we talked about objectives, now let's talk about strategies. A strategy is a carefully designed plan for achieving the retailer's goal and objectives. It is a course of action that, when executed properly, will produce the desired level of performance. Retailers can operate with 3 basic strategies. Get shoppers into your store, which is often called traffic strategy. And many retailers think getting people to visit the website or the store is one of the most difficult tasks in retailing. Convert these shoppers into customers by having them purchase merchandise, which is called retailer's conversion or closure strategy. And this means having the right merchandise and services, using the right layout and display, and having the right price, and having the right type of employees and at the right quantity so they can help all of your customers. And the last strategy is to do both of the first two and do it at the lowest operating cost possible that's consistent with the level of service that your customer expects. So it's often referred to as retailer's cost management. Many retailers go further and develop strategies that enable them to differentiate themselves from the competition as they accomplish these 3 tasks. However, one of the greatest failings in retailing today is that too many retailers have concentrated on just one means of differentiation, which is price. Retailers need to start thinking about differentiating themselves in different ways. Outstanding design, best customer service, things like that, to make them stand out amongst their competitors, and it's not just price-based. So a retailer develops a strategy to differentiate itself by analyzing its strengths and weaknesses, as well as the threats and opportunities that exist in the environment. And this is referred to as a SWOT analysis. So the strengths could be, what major advantages do we have? What are we good at? What do customers perceive to be our greatest points? The weaknesses can be, what do our competitors have as advantages over us? What do the competitors do that's better than us? What are our major internal weaknesses? The opportunities could be, what are favorable environmental trends that may help benefit the firm? What is the competition doing in our market? And what are some of the areas that are closely related to us that are underdeveloped? How can we tap into those? Some threats might be, again, environmental threats that you might not perceive, but they could be things like logistics. They could be things like legal holdups that you may not have anticipated. It could be technology. Technology can burden some retailers because it changes so rapidly. And if you're not staying up with those changes, it could hurt your business in the long run. After performing the SWOT analysis, the retailer may develop a retail marketing strategy with a strong financial element. A fully developed marketing strategy should address the following considerations. The specific target market, which is the group of customers the retailer is seeking to serve. It's important for retailers to understand the different target markets' demand on different product offerings and specialize to those ones. The location, which should be consistent with the needs and wants of the desired target market. And the specific retail mix, which a retailer intends to use to appeal to its target market and thereby meet its financial objectives. They do this in combination of merchandise, price, advertising, and promotion. They also have to think about store layout and design. All those things fit into the retail mix. Retailer also has to look at their value proposition. So it's a clear statement of tangible and intangible results that a customer receives from using the retailer's products and services. So when you're buying a product, you're not just buying the actual product. You're buying things that go along with it. The warranty, the customer service, anything like that, those go into the value proposition. So it's the difference between the benefits offered by one retailer versus their competition. So let's talk about the strategic planning and operations management model. So if you look in your book at Exhibit 2.8, it suggests that a retailer must engage in two types of planning and management tasks: the strategic planning and operations management. Each task is undertaken to achieve high profit results. Strategic planning is concerned with how the retailer responds to the environment in an effort to establish a long-term course of action. The strategic planning should best reflect the lines of trade in which the retailer will operate, the markets it will pursue, and the retail mix it will use. Strategic planning calls for a long-term commitment of resources by the retailer. An error in strategic planning can result in the decline of profitability, bankruptcy, and a loss of competitive position. On the other hand, effective strategic planning can help protect the retailer against competitive onslaughts or adverse environmental occurrences. The initial step in strategic planning are to define the firm's mission, establish goals and objectives, and perform a SWOT analysis. The next steps are to select the target market and appropriate locations. After selecting the target market and location, the retailer must develop the firm's retail mix. Retailers can best perform this strategic planning only after assessing the external environment. So if you look at Exhibit 2.8, it profiles the major environmental factors that need to be assessed. So consumer behavior. The retailer will need to understand the determinants of shopping behavior so it can identify likely changes in the behavior and develop appropriate strategies. Competitor behavior. The retailer must develop a competitive strategy that is not easily imitated. Supply chain behavior. The behavior of members of the retailer's supply chain can have a significant impact on the retailer's future. For example, are certain supply chain members, such as manufacturers or wholesalers, always seeking to improve their position in the supply chain by establishing their own internet sites and thus bypassing the retailer? So you got to be careful of that. And then socioeconomic environment, the retailer must understand how economic and demographic trends will influence revenues and costs in the future and adapt its strategy according to these changes. Then we have the technological environment. Technology is constantly changing, and retailers need to be aware of how technology is changing and have to look for opportunities to lower operating costs possibly, or what would be some of the barriers for their consumers to get their information or to be able to purchase products quickly and easily. And the last environmental factor that you need to look at is the legal and ethical environment. The retailer needs to be familiar with state, local, and federal regulations in the retail system. It also needs to understand evolving legal patterns in order to be able to design future retail strategies that are legally defensible. So the second part of this is operations management, and that's concerned with maximizing the efficiency of the retailer's use of resources and with how the retailer converts these resources into sales and profits. In other words, it aims to maximize the performance of current operations. Again, in Exhibit 2.8, it shows that operations management involves managing the buying and handling of merchandise, pricing, advertising and promotions, customer service and selling, and facilities. All of these activities require day-to-day attention. Operations management, however, can extend beyond the retail store if a retailer is a chain store retailer and is self-distributing or essentially performs the wholesaling functions and buys direct from the manufacturer. In this situation, the retailer will operate one or many distribution centers that receive shipments from manufacturers and then sorts the shipments into new shipments of broader assortments for delivery to its stores. The far right box of the Retail Strategic Planning and Operations Model in Exhibit 2.8 suggests that the cumulative effect of well-designed and executed strategic and operations plans will be the achievement of high profit. Mistakes in either of these two areas will severely hamper the retailer's performance and prevent it from being able to be the leader in its industry. The need to strive for high profit is tied to the extremely competitive nature of retailing. Retailers are well advised to set high but realistic profit objectives so that if their planned profits aren't reached, they have a chance of achieving average profitability. So it might not be the best, but at least they can still stay competitive. So that's all I have for chapters 1 and 2. I'm always here if you need any assistance. Reach out to me through Canvas, email me, and I'll get back to you so I can help you.